tell us about how To Fail as a Pop Star went from play to book, now CBC Gem. How's the journey been?
It's been wild. Yeah, like I pitched the idea to Canadian Stage, I want to say in the summer of 2018.
Right.
So now it's 2023. So I've been in this world kind of like for 5 years. And I don't think I expected it to have as many incarnations
Right.
as it has.
Right.
So it's been interesting to follow the journey. And
Yeah.
yeah,
In terms of, I mean, again, play to book, now to people's homes, literally on
yeah.
TV. What is there? Have there been learning moments in the last, how many ever years it's taken from, like, let's say the play to now CBC Gem on TV? What are some of the self-discovery or like learning moments throughout, like, reinventing your story in various mediums?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I've learned that's not surprising but still somewhat surprising is just how much I love collaboration. Like I've
Right.
always been a collaborative artist. Like even when I make an album, there's like, I love doing duets or having like someone do like the artwork or,
Yes.
I feel like all my, or even when I put out books, I always have illustrations. But TV's like highly, highly collaborative, right? Like you're
Yes.
getting notes from the producers, you're getting notes from the broadcaster, you're working with the director, you're on set with like more people than I've ever had work on a project of mine. And I loved it. Like I really, really loved just like being in a collaborative environment. So more TV, please.
Now, the old Vivek, the teen Vivek, would he have thought that his story would now become something so huge in such like a remarkable journey, I guess?
I don't even need you to finish the question. I'm
Yeah.
like, no. I mean, first of all, like the landscape of media has just changed so much, right? Like for a show like this to exist, like I'm thinking about like what queer representation looked like in the 80s and 90s, and it's like there was Ellen, and you probably don't even know which Ellen I'm talking about. Like it was like sitcom Ellen. It was before
Yes.
Ellen had a talk show. She had like a TV show,
Right, okay.
and like that's as gay as it got on TV,
Right,
you
right.
know. And like I remember her being on the Rosie O'Donnell show, and both of them talking about being Lebanese. And it was like instead of saying lesbian, like this is very weird. It was very coded, right? And so, our show, which is like so brown, so queer, so trans, like it's so diverse.
Yeah.
It's just I could have never imagined a show like that. So it's very surreal and exciting, and yeah.
I'm sure. I think from an audience perspective, it's so surreal and so rewarding to watch this come to life.
Thanks for saying that.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
Now, talking about the show, tell us more about it.
Well, it's about a brown queer kid in Edmonton. I love having like an Edmonton storyline because I feel like we always celebrate like Ontario and Toronto arts, but it's nice to see something from out west.
Yeah.
So, who, in a strange way falls in love with music, kind of because of homophobia and feeling like an outsider, tries to pay attention to what the cool girls are listening to, and then falls in love with music and decides, actually, I kind of like this. I want to pursue it. And so then we sort of follow their trajectory. And in a lot of ways, it's like a classic music biopic. Like you have a small town kid who has a big dream, feels like an outsider, gets the call from the big city. But what's different about the show is that it doesn't work out in the end. And you know that from the title. So
Yes.
we hope that there's enough in the show that despite knowing the spoiler, the big spoiler, that people stick around.
Right. Absolutely. Now, in terms of the idea of failure,
Yeah.
obviously it plays a huge role in your life. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like we put so much emphasis on performing success at any given time.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in a big city, you run into someone on the street and immediately it's like people are like, "Oh, I'm working on this, I'm doing this, I'm so busy, I'm hustling." And it's tiring. It's tiring to perform that level of like, I always say busy's not a personality, Like but like I find especially if you're creative, there's this pressure to perform busyness, and there's also pressure to perform success. And I feel like what gets lost then are all the times where we tried and it didn't work out, or we tried and the stars didn't align, or we didn't get the right phone call, or we got rejected. Like for every success story, even the most successful artists have experienced so much rejection. But even when we hear those stories of rejection, it's always to lift the success. It's like, well, this person, their demo got turned down 30 times before they, but we never get to just like be like, wow, like 30 times your demo was turned down. Like, wow, like that's hard, And so we're not allowed to like, the humanity of the struggle is sort of lost. And so for me, the show and this project is really about like, yeah, just giving people the space to say I had dreams that didn't work out, you know?
Right, right. And when did you really accept that, Vivek? Obviously, when
You think I accepted it?
Like when did you say, okay, you know what, we're going to turn this around. Failures doesn't have to be negative. It's going to turn into something positive for me. When did that click to you? If it has, I mean, or how do you deal with failure then on the flip side?
I mean, I think really, if I'm going to be honest, a lot of it was actually just like obsession with music. Like after I realized my career wasn't going to happen the way I wanted, when I think I was like 29, 30, I put out an album around that time. I cried the whole day and I was like, it just hit me. I was like, I'm not entitled to success. I'd always believed that if I just worked hard and if I sang my heart out, it was like the stars would align. And I think when I was 29, 30, it was like, oh, I'm not entitled to that. The lie of meritocracy, especially if you're brown, like it's like that it is a lie. But I loved music so much that I couldn't let it go. And so even though I was writing books, I was like, when I did a reading, I would sing, or, you know, I put out a Christmas the Wally album, or I did like a covers album about Babyface, and I made a band with my brother. Like throughout my 30s, I was just like, whatever, I love music, I'm gonna keep doing it. And then the last sort of iteration that was How to Fail as a Pop Star, where I was reading music biographies and I was like, oh, I'd love to write a music biography, but I realized really quickly that like you have to be successful to have a music biography because people need to recognize your songs. And I was like, nobody's gonna know my songs. And that's what sort of opened the idea of like, how do you tell an anti-success story? And so part of what I'm proud of the most is that in a weird way, I never gave up on music. The dream I realized wasn't gonna happen, but I still kept being like, how do I keep music at the forefront? Right. And suddenly this becomes the thing that I got to do, which is like amazing. Like if you're gonna fail as a pop star, getting to make like a TV show about it is probably like the best consolation prize ever, right?
Like, amazing. Now the trajectory of How to Fail as a Pop Star went again, play, book, CBC Gem. Did you think
what's next? What do you think's next? Sorry, did I think this was going to happen?
Trajectory, yes.
No, I mean, the timing's I feel like I'm not like a super airy-fairy person, but I do feel like I've just been very fortunate. Like the play we did 2 weeks before lockdown, and I heard from the theater company that I think 60%, 40 to 60% of plays that were scheduled after lockdown never got rescheduled after. So even after 2021, 2022, 23, just never saw the light of day. So I just feel really lucky that I got to do the play. And it was actually a producer that was in the room from Sphere, Carolyn Habib, was in the room, saw the play. And so when CBC came around and were interested, that's how it all sort of came together. So again, the play got canceled. I was like, well, I mean, not the play got canceled, but the world got canceled with COVID. And so I was supposed to go on tour with the play. I'm like, well, that's it. I'll probably never do the play again. Right. And then CBC launched this amazing program called the Creative Relief Program to support artists during COVID. Right. And I applied for it, and basically there was like a portfolio called From Playwright to Pilot. Right. And it was about supporting you making a pilot. So I just applied. Yeah. I was like, well, I have a play, maybe I could write a pilot. And they said yes. So it's just like these things just kind of
worked out.
Well, I don't want to say that because I don't want to dismiss my hard work, but yeah, I feel like, and even this year, like I look at, like I have so many friends in the TV and music, the movie industry who like their projects have been shelved or on hold because of the writer's strike and all that stuff. So I just like, I really feel like the whole thing's a miracle. Like I'm just like the fact that we got to make it, that like, so to answer your question, did I think we'd end up here? No. Not at all.
It's been a great journey. Like look at that.
Totally.
In terms of representation, and I know that I've wanted to hear about this for so long, there's queer, there's trans, we're South Asian. Talk to me about representation in the show.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm really proud of the show is how diverse it is, but like there's no crisis around it, right? Like the mom isn't like, oh, it's so hard being an immigrant, and the child isn't like, I'm confused, what am I? Somebody love me, somebody like me, you know, like it's like all of these identities are just part of who Vivek is, and at any given moment, the people in Vivek's life celebrate he or she for who he or she is in that moment. And you know, I think there's one joke, spoiler, in the last episode where I think I say like, and I'm a lady now, and that's sort of it, you know, but we assume our audience is smart, you know, like in 2023, we're like, the kids are gonna get it. We don't have to beat them on the head with it. We don't have to like, you know, wrap it in a present. Like it can just be, people can be who they are. And what's great is like the story, I mean, my character, there is a world where we can say my character does experience, racism, sexism, homophobia. I think that's in the show, but that's actually not what the show is about. Like, it's actually just about a boy who wants to be a pop star. And so to me, it feels like such a blessing again, because I feel like I haven't always been allowed to tell these stories. I've often felt a lot of pressure to tell stories about the hardship or trauma of being different. So
Absolutely.
it's a win for me.
For sure, in so many ways.
For us.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really getting into this now.
This is
This
great,
like
I love it. Now, were there any reservations to bring any sort of subject matter or topic to the forefront while working on the series, Vivek? Once, like, I don't know if the audience is going to take this well, or...
I think one of the things I try to have strong ethics around is, what does it mean to represent other people? I'm used to mining my own life and making it public, but the people who are close to me, including like my mom, my ex, like, and strangers who I don't know, or people who, like, colleagues, like, none of them signed up for this. And so I'm always trying to figure out, like, okay, well, the story is still mine. I can still tell the story. Is there a way that I can tell not their story, but have these other characters who are part of my life or who have been part of my journey in a way that's like fair and nuanced? Even the so-called villains of the show, I really try to write them from a perspective of love and like respect. I mean, there's one villain I didn't do that for because they're just a villain. But everybody else, I really try to like give them some nuance, because no one is either good or bad. And again, I think when we are telling stories that are based on our lives, it is a certain kind of responsibility. And I take that responsibility really seriously. So I think it was less about content and more just thinking about, how to bring in the other characters in my life in a respectful way.
And I know that you had a launch event where the first 3 episodes of the series was aired to a public audience.
Sure was.
How was it? How was the reaction? How did you feel?
I mean, it's such a relief because we've lived in a bubble with this show, so we all think everything's funny, but like to actually hear other people laugh, and some of the things they laughed at, we forgot that they were intended to be funny because we're desensitized. So it felt really nice. Yeah. I also had a launch in Calgary with my parents. Both of my parents took the bus from Edmonton. And I mean, they were so quiet the whole time, and I was like, oh no, they hated it, blah, blah, blah. But my mom sent me like this really beautiful message the next day about like, I was just so overwhelmed. And she's like, I really hope this show becomes like a statement for people to see a parent like loving a child like unabashedly. And I was like, oh, that's such a like beautiful thing to say. And of course my dad was like, did you know the Oilers won tonight? And I was like, yeah, that's why you got cut out of the show. No, I'm joking.
Oh my God, I love that. A message that for Brown Girl audiences. I mean, we've been following your work for years.
Oh, that's really nice.
What do you have to say about, South Asians in the diaspora, people who are owning their identities? What does Vivek have to say?
I mean, I have a lot of things to say. I think the first thing I'll say is I made this show for us. One of the things I love about the show is that it's so brown, but also it really centers women. Like even the white girl that Vivek's jealous of, like it's done in a way that's still like I think aspirational. So I love brown girls. This show's for us. I think the other thing for me on my journey is like, there has been barriers, and I think we were talking about this a little on the phone, but for years I've wanted to get into this industry, and I've even known people loosely who've been in TV and film, and I've tried to like rattle those cages or whatever the saying is, and it's felt so elusive. And the big thing that I've learned, and this has been the consistent message in my career, from going back all the way to like making my own albums, to self-publishing my own books, to now writing this show, if you want to do it, you have to do it yourself. And I mean, of course, like I'm so lucky to have people who have come on board then and supported it at times. But often I think there's been a part of me that still goes back to that teenager that thinks that someone's going to discover me, or like someone's going to see on socials and be like, yes, let's hire this person. And it's like, actually, no, like, and I think this is why I'm cautious about being like, everything worked out, because it still takes somebody who's driving the ship, and someone who has the vision, and someone who's able to like move something forward. And so, I think if you're brown in the world, and if you're a girl in the world, like you have the odds against you. And so part of, I think of people like K-Ray, like who just like are doing it on their own, and it's so inspiring to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's the model. And I hopefully along the way we get more support in the way that I have. But yeah, if you have an idea, if you have a vision, like don't wait for somebody to show up and knock on your door. Just like find a way, even if it's DIY, even if it's like you and you're like, you have to start somewhere, right? Like even if it's a play, you just never know what it's going to be that's going to land you there. So yeah.
I love that, Vivek. Thank you.
Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, it was great. Now, before I do let you go, I'm gonna try a shot at this. Can you sing for us?
Oh shoot. Okay, what am I going to sing for you?
Anything you'd like.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I thought I'd try.
Oh my God.
If you're comfortable.
Yeah, sure, I'll try.
Okay, yes, please. Oh my God.
I just put out a single today. So the show has so many songs in it, and this is one of the songs I wrote for the show and for the play. The single version, actually, which is on the soundtrack, has Julie Black, the legendary Julie Black. She's not on the show, unfortunately. I will not be singing her parts, but maybe I'll just sing a little bit of the song. And for me, I wrote this song just kind of feeling sometimes like music and I are a relationship, and we were going through a breakup, and I was like, what do I do now? I still love this thing that doesn't love me back. And I was like, I have to keep showing up, and that's what the song's called.
Let's hear it.
I didn't quite make it, but we didn't quite break it. It's easy to walk away, just as easy to stay. Both sides have their merits, but in any marriage, you gotta keep showing up. That's the work. I gotta keep showing up. So with every note I sing, I'm showing up. Not sure what it means, but I'll keep on showing up. I might never sing outside this room for anyone other than you, but that's enough as long as I keep showing up.
Oh my God, that was beautiful.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're good, Erin. Thank you so much.
Oh, we're good. Okay.